Welcome to the Fish North Georgia podcast, where we talk everything fishing here in North Georgia.
Make a cast over that brush pile and bring wolf packs of spotted bass up.
Georgia is blessed with so many of these electric-only lakes.
No, I didn't say that, Danny. Don't be
so,
speculating now.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode of the Fish North Georgia podcast. I guess if you're on our YouTube channel, you can see something a little bit different tonight. I've got a lot of products surrounding me, and I'm going to get to that here in a second. But first, let me tell you about tonight's episode. You know, ever since we started this podcast, we have asked our followers, who do you want to hear? And we've received a lot of input, a lot of names. We've followed a lot of leads and met a lot of great people, you know, from our followers' suggestions. But one name has come up over and over and over again, and we've been trying to get this guy in here, and we finally succeeded, and that name is Rob Jordan. You know, Rob is a professional angler here on Lake Lanier. He's also a guide, you know, got a lot of knowledge on a lot of lakes. You know, I'll be quite honest with you. I didn't expect to hear what I heard tonight. Now, what am I talking about? There's a lot of emotion involved in this guy that I don't know that many of you have seen. And I think it's refreshing. I'm glad he came by. I'm glad he opened up a little bit. You guys need to listen to it. And I'll be honest, we talk about spotted bass and their behavior, and we talk about the ups and downs of life on the tour. And but it's nice to see a guy open up sometimes. And Rob Jordan did that tonight. So I absolutely enjoyed talking to him. It was actually one of the better conversations that I've had. And, you know, we just flowed together, and you guys really need to watch it. I mean, it's really, really good. So we appreciate Rob stopping by. Now, let me take a few minutes to talk about what I'm surrounded by. One of the great things here at Fish North Georgia is we have had the opportunity to meet so many great people since we have started this. And, you know, a lot of anglers, a lot of smaller local anglers up to some of the big names. And, you know, one of the things we've been blessed with is to meet some of these local companies that help support Lake Lanier and surrounding lakes. But let's be honest, Lake Lanier is a world-class spotted bass destination, and it takes a lot of people to keep these anglers on the water. And one such company is Georgia Blade. All right, Georgia Blade has been around for over 30 years. They're located here in Dawsonville, Georgia. Mike and Pam Shepard, let me just go ahead and tell you right now, you're not going to meet two finer people. And we have had the pleasure of sitting in their house and talking with them about their products and talking with them about their journey. And, you know, we're forming relationships and friendships. And these are the people that we want to promote here at Fish North Georgia. We want to promote these local companies and how hard they work. And Georgia Blade is just that. You know, everything that they do is handmade here in Dawsonville, Georgia. Now, let me repeat that. It's made in Dawsonville, Georgia. Now, they're best known for their jigs and their spinner baits, but the reality is, you know, they got a lot of options for a lot of different people. And just right here in front of me, I'm looking, you know, A-rigs. I don't know that there's a more affordable A-rig than the Georgia Blade A-rig. And I fish with this thing all the time, and I catch fish on it. Absolutely, it's a game changer for me. You guys need to get you some. We've got buzz baits, you know, buzz baits for nighttime, buzz baits for daytime. We've got what I call an underspin. They call them shad spins. And we all know that you can catch, you know, anybody can catch a fish on one of these things if fished right in the right presentation. So they've got several different sizes of these things. How about flutter spoons? I got a couple of 6-inch flutter spoons in front of me of a couple different colors, 4-inch. You know, they've got all kinds of variety here with these products like that. They've got jigging spoons. They've got something that's called a sheepoon. And what is a sheepoon? You know, it is a jig spoon with a couple of prop blades on it. You can cast it or jig it. It's absolutely fun to fish with, and I'm telling you, you can throw that thing a mile. I've thrown it before. So all of these great things. Now, they're known for jigs as well. So right here is a Georgia jig. I've got a couple of different colors right here, but the reality is they've got 4 sizes of these things. You can get them with or without rattles, and they've got 40 different colors. Think about that, 40 different colors. They've got 3 combinations of skirts. You know, you can get the living rubber, you can get silicone, you can get the Lumaflex with tinsel, and guys, you can just pair that with the right trailer. You know, any situation, you can have a Georgia jig ready for that. You know, we're mimicking crawfish. All these different colors can do it throughout the year. As the crawfish colors change, you've got a Georgia Blade jig ready for that application. But what I want to bring to you tonight is these spinner baits right now. Okay? These are game changers. For 20 years, this blade right here has been out of production, but now it is back. It is an exclusive Georgia Blade product right here, and it's called the Ultra Vibe. And this blade is shaped a little bit differently than your regular, spinnerbait blade at the top. Comes down, it narrows, and what that does is it gives off a ton of vibration. And Josh and I have fished with these things, and actually we were trying to think of a way to describe it to you. And to be honest, this is how we figured it out. You guys know how a Harley Davidson sounds when it comes by. You can feel it, okay? Well, with an Ultra Vibe, you can feel it all the way through your hands, through that rod and everything. It just gives off so much vibration. And again, this is exclusive to Georgia Blade. No other company has this blade. So, you guys need to get you some of these things. But there's a couple of special things, just given the weather and stuff here in Georgia, that we want to go over as well. Right here is the Big Chick. Okay, this thing has a big old Colorado blade on it. Very chartreuse right here. I think they've got a couple different colors on it. But this thing is designed for dirty lakes like Gunnersville, Chickamauga. But guys, think about all the rain we have had in North Georgia. All these clear lakes have a lot of dirty water in them, especially a lot of these smaller reservoirs. And this thing gives off a lot of vibration. You got the color. It's designed for this. But let's be honest, these lakes are going to clear up. So if you want to catch fish here in the next month, you need to go and get you one of these Big Chicks. I'm telling you, you'll catch some fish, and big fish right there. And that just kind of leads into something that's coming here real shortly in April, early May. On lakes like Lake Lanier, you've got the nighttime spinnerbait bite. Georgia Blade's got you covered. They've got the darkened blade and, the darkened skirts and everything. A lot of vibration, Colorado blade again. And basically, it's just they've got you covered for every application. You can throw that Ultra Vibe spinnerbait year-round. You've got the Big Chick for dirty water. You've got the dark ones with the big Colorado blades for nighttime fishing that's going to come up. Guys, I'm telling you, you need to buy some Georgia Blade products. You're going to love them. But there's more. One more thing before we get to this podcast. Now, right here in front of me, we have a retail value of $150 of products, all Georgia Blade products. We are going to give them away to one of our followers, and this hat will be included in this. Here's what you got to do. Okay, everybody pay attention. You've got to go into a retailer that sells Georgia Blade products. You've got to buy at least one Georgia Blade product, and you have got to take a picture. You got to walk, you pay for it, you walk outside that store, and we would like to see you hold that Georgia Blade product up and take a selfie type picture with that product and the name of the store that you bought it from. Then we want you to go to your Facebook page or your Instagram page, and we want you to post it, and we want you to tag Fish North Georgia and Georgia Blade in it. Everybody that does that, we will get your name, and we will put it in for a drawing that's going to happen on March 27th. So you got to buy at least one Georgia Blade product. You got to send a picture on your social media, Facebook or Instagram, Facebook and Instagram. Tag Fish North Georgia, tag Georgia Blade in it. Your name will be entered for a $150 retail value. And I only have one A-rig right here, but there's actually going to be 3 A-rigs. And Miss Pam told me she was going to, I can't even remember the name of it. It's a special skirt, like a bucktail kind of skirt that goes on these A-rigs that she's going to throw in as well. So actually the retail value is even higher. Okay, so go buy the product, walk outside the store, take a picture, selfie type picture of the product and the store name. Now, if you do it online, because there are some stores that sell these stuff online, you need to either have us a picture of the box that it comes in with the Georgia Blade product or a proof of purchase, I guess. You can, if you order it online, you can take a picture of the proof of purchase and also put it on your Instagram page, put it on your Facebook page, tag Fish North Georgia, tag Georgia Blade. Now, I'm going to give you real quick a list of all the people that sell Georgia Blade products. So you got no excuse. They're out there, okay? And we want everybody to participate in this because we really want to support these local companies. You're not, you're helping Georgia Blade right here get their name out, and you should because they're worth it. All right, so listen to these retailers. Hammond's Fishing Center, The Outdoor Depot, Oakwood Bait and Tackle, Dugout Bait and Tackle, Tri-State Outdoors, C&J Mountain Outfitters, Birch's Tackle Shop, Nature's Tackle Box, S&K Sporting Goods, Lanier Baits, Weedawee Outdoors, Gene's Pawn Shop, Tim's Bait and Tackle, Franklin Gun Shop, the Country Lane Market, Lucky Lures, and Feather and Antlers. Okay, so there's your list. So you've got a bunch of places to choose from. Go out, buy a Georgia Blade product, take your picture, get in the drawing. We will have a live drawing on Facebook March 27th at 7 p.m. We'll go live. We will draw right then and there. Guys, we want to show all these companies love like this. We will do this for other companies as we go forward. And we're just so thankful that they support the community and that they support Fish North Georgia. Show them some love, and we hope you enjoy this episode. All right, guys, we are back on this episode of the Fish North Georgia podcast, and I am here tonight with professional angler Rob Jordan. How you doing, man?
Great, man. Great. Glad to be here with y'all.
Well, we appreciate you making the trip down, and let's just get right into it and talk some fishing. You yourself, how'd you get into it?
Man, I can't even really tell you when I got into it. It was just something that I was, I guess you could say, was just born into. I mean, I've been around fishing and bass fishing specifically. I don't even remember catching my first fish.
Right.
My whole family fished at some level, whether it be my grandma fishing with a cane pole for bluegill, and my dad and different other family members, my grandfather, loving bass fishing from ponds to tournaments to even professional level tournaments that some different family members, competed in. So to say I've been around it my whole life that's just all I've ever wanted to do. I never thought about doing anything else.
Now, where'd you grow up at?
I grew up in, I'd say from elementary school age. From there on, I grew up in Gwinnett County, Lawrenceville, Snellville, kind of Lilburn, all where it comes together.
Well, that place has changed over the last few years.
It has changed tremendously. It has changed a lot. But so every pond, creek, lake, anywhere in that area, we fished it at some point or another, whether we were supposed to or not, on a bicycle. I can think of so many great memories fishing over there. Growing up, Mom used to drop me off at a neighborhood lake. We'd fish till it was dark, and a lot of good buddies that grew up with fishing. That's all we ever cared to do. I mean, that was it.
Did you ever get caught just being somewhere you weren't supposed to be? Because I have.
Not really fishing that I can recall. I'm sure that probably did at some point, probably asked to leave it. I can't recall anything right offhand. No, I take that back. I knew there had to be one.
Right. There's always one.
There's always one.
There's always one.
So there was this pond that we did have access to fish through a friend that lived in the neighborhood. But you know how oftentimes when you have ponds, you've got, a series of ponds. It'd be like a dam and then a drain that makes another lake. Well, we fished this place backwards and forwards. We just fished every bit of it. So, but we naturally kind of migrate our way up to where the spillway kind of comes in, and we decided one day we were going to slip up over there and cast over there.
Farther.
Now, we didn't get in any big trouble. We were just asked to not fish up there anymore. But no big stories or anything like that. I got some other big stories, but not.
We'll get into those big stories here in a second. I can remember there used to be a lake. It's a subdivision now, and it was a local doctor, and he had two. He had the Farm Pond Lake out here in the middle of the cow pasture, and he had the one right by his house. And the one right by his house was off limits. But we kind of figured out when he was on vacation. And so we got in there a time or two, like that. So I'm sure most kids back in the day did that. Now, today it's kind of harder.
A lot harder.
The lakes that I grew up with are gone, all these farm ponds, because just, people built subdivisions on them and stuff.
Same
like
thing
that.
In the area that I grew up. I can think about some of those lakes, which some of them were subdivision lakes, but some of them were lakes that were just, I guess you could say farm ponds. And then now you go by and there's an apartment complex and a shopping strip and all that built around them. And, there's still fish to be caught in those places, but the access to that just does not seem to be the same as it was when I was coming up.
Right. It's got like good hunting land now. It's
right. It's hard to come by.
Very much so.
Very hard to come by.
Very much so. So, all right, before we go any farther, let's hear one of them stories you kind of mentioned a second ago.
Oh man, you put me on the spot.
Let's go.
I got to think of one. Is this fishing related?
Well, let's just something that the world out there can get to know you by.
Oh man,
as you're growing up,
you're gonna have to. I might have to take a second and kind of dig through the memory bank here. Gosh, what would be a good one? This is not necessarily a funny story, but it's something that I think that any fisherman can relate to, especially a young fisherman coming up.
All right.
This is not necessarily there's no punchline or nothing at the end of it or anything, but I can think about one thing that always to this day, it really sticks out to me. And I explain this to kids, young folks. I spend a lot of time fishing with them on the lake about, learning how to fish. You know,
Right.
just go spend time doing that on your own. There's a lot of great resources out there. I promise I'm getting to a point. Just stick
No,
with
go
it.
ahead. Take your time.
But there's a lot of great resources nowadays that weren't available 15 years ago,
no
as
doubt
far as
about it.
this
Yeah.
kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and podcasts and YouTube and Instagram, all that stuff. But when I graduated high school, 17, I had a good buddy, Travis Burton, that I fished with all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a graduation. We had a little graduation, parties or whatever. We get some money from family and friends, as we're going on in the world.
Right, yeah.
Well, dang if we don't use every single dollar that we got from that to come up here to Lake Lanier and go fishing. We literally fished. I can't even think of 5 days that whole summer we didn't go fishing. If it wasn't all night for night fishing and daytime, we would literally fish all night and then keep fishing till the day, come home, sleep, and do it all over again. That is what we did. And we didn't get in any trouble. We weren't out doing it. We were fishing. If you needed to look for us, we were fishing. We were at Shoal Creek Boat Ramp or Van Pew or something like that. We fished. Now, we didn't have a clue what we were doing as far as what you're supposed to do on Lanier. That type of information wasn't as readily available as it is now.
Right. But I bet you had fun.
Man, we had the best time ever. And I think about that. Like I said, there's no, we didn't get caught, didn't get arrested.
Right.
We just had fun. We fished. That's all we did. And that is when I really just fell in love with the lake. It's a story growing up, and we're 16, 17 years old. That's all we did. We'd shoot up to the lake, put the boat in, fish for a couple hours. That's just all we ever thought about. So that's just a fun story. I'm sure there's some that aren't so
No, that's great, but it does touch on a point about having fun.
Right.
And sometimes with the rise of the high school fishing and the pressure that's on these kids at an earlier age now, that maybe they miss, that you and I didn't miss, because
Right.
I fish for fun. Well, I still fish for fun.
Right.
And if it's not fun, I don't want to go. So I think a lot of people are missing that these days. So count yourself, blessed that you got to do that.
Man, so blessed. And I see that sometimes. I've certainly been around fishing my whole life and do it as a job. So there's a lot of times where I have to remind myself, like, are you having fun with this?
Right, exactly.
I love fishing to the core. I like to fish for anything. If you had a brim in a creek out here, we'd be out there trying to catch one. I just love to fish. But what you said in regards to high school fishing, I think that now not only is that it's the greatest thing for the fishing world, it gets kids fishing that may have not been fishing before, and it grows the sport of tournament or competitive fishing just leaps and bounds. It's great. But I do feel like sometimes kids are thrown right into the fire. Mm-hmm. Now, some kids may be brought up around it and they're ready for competition. Some of them, they're not. It takes a little time, know. And I would encourage anybody though just to love the process of fishing. Just and things will kind of find their way as time goes on. But having fun with it and no doubt, man. Tremendously blessed to have places to fish, good friends, and stuff like that. Where we got to go fishing as a kid. That stuff, it shaped me, and I love being able to just spend a day in the lake with another kid. And at one little time, that's my little chance to say, hey, like,
Right.
Introduce them to fishing. I've got to do that a lot of times over the years. First fish. Those days to me are like way cooler than us going out catching 20-pound back.
Right. Now, you spend a lot of time working with kids and stuff like this now.
Absolutely. So when I first started guiding specifically, kind of went about it a whole different way than most or probably what people would realize. Did a lot of like email marketing, I guess you could call it. Mm-hmm. A lot of discounted trips and word of mouth. And, I didn't want to go compete in the tackle shop, so to speak, with the established guides in this lake. I don't want to step on anybody's toes, kind of want to do my own thing.
Right.
And, I found out, like, I love fishing with kids. I love kids. That's like the most purest form of excitement, watching them catch a fish. I could take you and I go fishing and you're catching big fish and, we're having a good time. A kid can catch a 14-inch fish, and he is absolutely ecstatic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to me, that's cool because I remember being that kid. Some of my first memories when you first starting to catch you 2 or 3 pounders, or you get to go with your dad, and that one day you caught one bigger than him. Like that's cool stuff. And I found that like that was kind of a niche, I guess you could say, to where I wanted to spend time in the summer. Hey, I'll take kids fishing. Because one time specifically, I don't even remember this person's name, But that one comment stuck with me so hard. This guy and his wife, contacted me about taking their son fishing. This was probably 2011 or so. And they said they had taken him out with another guide. And it wasn't a bass guide. I don't even think it was on Lanier. It was a striper hybrid trip or something. And they said they had a nice time, but, the trip wasn't really focused around the young man. So the guy did a good job, but they wanted a trip where they're like, we don't care if we catch a thing, just spend time with him. He loves to fish. And I'm like, well, how would you do it any different? Like, you need to just, hey guy, like whatever the guy's name is, like we're going to get up on the front, we're going to look at the depth finder, we're going to fish. And we went out and had us a good time, caught 3 or 4 fish, and I enjoyed that. I came home and like, I could take you fishing and catch 3 or 4 fish, and it's not been a great day,
right?
To our standards,
right?
To him, it's the best day that ever happened.
Yeah, he won't forget it.
Absolutely, and that's just something I enjoyed, and I wanted to spend a lot of time doing that. And I get to spend time with high school guys that I've seen some of them go up into the college fishing, and they're doing real good, and like I really enjoy that. I mean, that's like that. Hey, you're not fishing to make $1 million. You're fishing because you love it, and you love to spend time with people, and hey, if I get the chance to spend, time in the boat with a kid here and there, man, that's cool to me. Like, I feel like I've done, shared fishing with somebody else, and keep spreading that because, well, don't knock the mic over.
No, that's all right.
But, if he teaches somebody else and he teaches somebody else or takes somebody else, that's how you spread, fishing and hunting. And to me, that's just really important.
Now, do you work with any organizations or anything like that as far as with kids or anything?
Not formally. I do the awesome organization here, which they're nationwide, is Cast for Kids. And I don't work with them formally or anything. I just promote it because, hey, I mean, we got an awesome fishing community here, as you know, Special Lake, and they do an event specifically for special needs kids and their families on the lake, and that's something to me that's just it's I don't have any personal family members, touched by that, but that to me is something that, hey, if I can take this kid fishing for a day, or help the family for a day, because that can be a lot of I don't know how to, that's a lot of work for somebody to take care of a special needs child. And hey, if I can take them on the lake, man, like that's the coolest thing in the world. So I like to see that grow. They've had it a couple years here at Lanier, and they've had an awesome turnout, a lot of great kids. And, I would encourage anybody, if you can volunteer for that.
And what's it called again?
Cast for Kids.
Okay.
Man, there's just been some special times on those trips. And over the years, I've been able to take, like I said, a lot of kids with a lot of different needs and different things. And those trips are special, man. I mean, it really does choke me up talking about it.
Yeah, I'm sure, absolutely.
And not a whole lot of stuff chokes me up, but those trips impact you and them more than anything. And it's not about going out catching a whole lot of fish. A lot of times it's just idling that boat around the boat ramp, and these kids are just ecstatic.
Oh, I can imagine.
And
seriously.
I mean, it's a powerful deal. I mean, it really is. And like I said, I'd encourage anybody to get involved as a sponsor, as a volunteer, any way they can. So, Cast for Kids is one. But I do donate a few trips throughout the year, fundraisers or whatever. But I made the point a few years ago that I only will do that to kids things, whether it's a sick child, kids organization like that, a fundraiser for, anything, abused children or sick, whatever it is. It's just something based around kids. Okay. And like I said, that's just something that's important to me.
Well, I certainly, sitting across from you, I can feel your passion for it. I mean, the emotion that you're getting. And I brought that up for a specific reason, because we just spent a few minutes concentrating on what fishing should be. Fun, helping others, and I kind of want to bring it back to maybe some of the business aspects that you have found, going and doing a little pro fishing and stuff like that. And we can kind of contrast that a little bit from what it should be to what the reality is.
What it can be.
What it can be.
And you can, well, go ahead. I don't want to.
No, absolutely. Go ahead. Say what you got to say.
Well, you don't want to, I think that with the fishing industry or with professional fishing as a whole, I think there's a lot of different, there's just so many different stories that guys have. Everybody's got a different background or a different situation. but reminding yourself to keep it fun, and fish, and just kind of fish your way up the ranks. There's a lot, fishing for a living, man, that's the coolest thing in the world. Like there's not many countries,
Not many,
if any other ones in the world. I mean, there's a few, but that you can do that, like fish for a living. Like, how cool is that?
Now that you said that, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't know that I've ever seen anything anywhere else that is like that. I'm sure they've got it, but not like we got it here.
No, I mean, there are some other, I know Australia, and there's different, South Africa, and then South America. There's some, bass fishing is a big deal, but the way that we've got it here, I mean, man, that is awesome. Mm-hmm. And it's always been a dream of mine since I was a little kid, but there's a lot of moving parts to the fishing business side of things that we don't always see sometimes. As a kid growing up, and as I know a lot of kids that are growing up wanting to fish now, they just see the tournaments. They just see the big fish and the big checks, and that's all they see. The boats with the stickers on them and all that. Well, man, that sure is cool, but there's a lot to that. And it can be a long process to get there. Mm-hmm. A buddy of mine, Belat, wrote an article about this last year in FLW, one of their articles, and it was talking about, for him, it was a 10 to 12 year process, and that's more than likely, that's kind of what it usually is. Not everybody picks up tournament fishing and then all of a sudden they win the classic. It doesn't really work that way.
Very rare.
It's a long process, and taking your time and just kind of grinding your way through that. That's what it takes. It's not an overnight process. I was fortunate enough to get to fish the FLW Tour in 2018 and 19 and get to see a little bit of that, and not fishing it this year, but I 100% intend to be fishing it some of the years here to come. But I feel like I've got a little better understanding now as for the best way for me to go about it.
Right.
Because everybody's story is different.
Well, let's go back a little bit, and let's start about the process from the beginning. When you decided, what was it? Did you fish BFLs first or something like that? How'd you get started in this part?
Sure. So, man, as a little kid, I got to fish, like I said, with different family members, my dad, my cousin, and different people who fished tournaments. And had fished a lot higher level tournaments, won stuff and all that. Well, as a little kid, 5, 6 years old, got tagged along in a little weekend tournament. And to me, that was like the coolest thing in the world.
Absolutely.
I'm sure the tournament probably didn't mean a whole lot, or my dad probably wouldn't brought me a lot.
It wasn't a lot on the line, right?
But man, I had that was the coolest thing in the world to me, and I just always wanted to fish tournaments. Well, as a teenager, and like I said earlier, I was talking about fishing with my buddy. We had a little bass boat, wasn't anything fancy. Wanted to fish some tournaments, got in a few here, and the first one I ever won by myself was a night tournament, Friday night tournament on Lake Lanier. I think it was like 17 years old. Not a big tournament at all, but to me it was like,
I'm
cool.
sure. I can imagine how you felt as a 17-year-old. Like, oh yeah, you just won it. You are the thing.
Yeah, well,
that's how I would have responded at 17.
So then I went straight down to college. I was between when I turned 18 that summer, went to ABAC for fisheries and wildlife technology. That's what I went to college for. So I took my little beat up boat down there with me, and we fished some of the little tournaments down there. Some of them were on PFAs, Paradise PFA, and Reed Bingham's a state park down there. We had a lot of fun fishing those. But fished at Lake Blackshear, that's where a lot of my family was from, or still is, and got in some of those little weekend tournaments down there, and had some good tournaments doing that. And I just kind of worked my way up the ranks, not ranks, but experience level in fishing tournaments
and stuff like that.
And I wanted to fish some BFLs. I didn't ever fish in a club, not for any reason. I just didn't fish in a club, and I wanted to fish some BFLs. But my cousin specifically, he was fishing the Bassmaster Elite Series at the time and all that. And my dad, they said, you got to fish co-angler 1 year. Mm-hmm. I feel like I could go fish against Van Dam at the time, which
right.
I was a 17, 18-year-old kid, right?
Exactly.
We all feel invincible at that point in time.
Oh, yeah. I remember them days.
Yeah.
It's been a long time, but I remember them.
But little did we know, no, we weren't even anywhere close to that.
Absolutely.
But they said, you got to fish co-angler for a year. And I said, okay, whatever. So did that. Had some good tournaments, had some, didn't catch any fish some days. And you're thinking, man, I'm ready to drive my boat. Well, you learn that in the tournaments, there's a lot of parts to that. You gotta hook that boat up. You gotta get that boat there. Mm-hmm. You gotta, make sure everything's working right. You gotta make the decisions. You gotta catch them. You gotta put them in the boat. Then you gotta get them back. And things don't always go as planned. Things break. Things don't work right. So it was very good to fish as a co-angler, and I would encourage anybody to do that. Whether it's a young kid wanting to fish tournaments or whether it's a 50-year-old guy wanting to get in tournaments, fishing some as a co-angler is good. You learn the ins and outs of it, what to do, what not to do. So I kind of worked my way up that way, fished as a co-angler for a year, and then fished some BFLs as a boater. Trying to think of the time frame here. Probably like 2009 or 10. It's probably the first time I fished some. I think it was 2008 or 9, somewhere in that range of the first BFLs I fished as a boater. And, man, I didn't have any money to fish that.
Right.
I mean, didn't have any at all, just enough to get by. And had some success. Fished one at West Point and so close to winning. I finished second. And those are the ones that eat you up because you think back to that one bite or that one fish. And but I had lost a fish that day trying to swing him in the boat, trying to be fancy, that would have won that tournament for me. Now, anybody that fishes tournaments, we all know that we all lose in fish. You know what I mean? Everybody's got a story about the one they could have won with.
Right.
Well, that just kind of like lit that fire, to keep fishing. Now, throughout college and those early years, man, I still didn't have enough money to really compete how I thought I could or, do best at. But you just keep grinding. You keep coming up with just enough money to fish, try to make the championship. And honestly, I mean, several years of not really good tournaments, and then until you kind of start learning, you got to pay your dues.
Exactly.
And that's not just in tournaments. I mean, that's just in life in general. I think we all want to go straight to the winner's circle. It doesn't work like that.
Exactly. I'm waiting for the Radio Broadcast Hall of Fame to give me a letter right now inviting me, invitation for me like that. It should be coming any time now. I know exactly what you're saying.
It takes time. And we're talking about that 10-year process, give or take. It takes time. You work your way up, and there's always something that you're still trying to shoot for and work towards. And I think it's important to kind of just climb that ladder at your own pace. Like there's no set time frame. You got to go to the coast or Toyota Series, I think is what they call it now, the Opens. There's no set time frame. Like just do it at your own pace.
Did you ever have a time during this where you thought about quitting?
1,000 times.
Yeah.
Not I'll say 1,000 times. But plenty of times.
Plenty of times.
Yeah.
And what motivated you, or why did you keep on going? What drove you?
It's there's a couple things, but one specifically, and I really don't talk about this as much as I probably should. I have talked about it a few times. I guess you could say it's kind of like my testimony in a way. I mean, it is. So always wanted to fish, and it's I just all I ever wanted to do, but I couldn't ever figure out like how are you really going to do that? And man, there's not a whole lot that chokes me up at all. But
get choked up, buddy. Let's go. Up. I'll cry right with you.
And everybody can watch this. I can think of just a few times in my adult life I ever cried. But I'm gonna try to get through this without this. It was such a powerful, very powerful moment. It was 2010, I believe. There was a tournament series called HT3. I think it was only around for a year or two. It was a 3-fish, 1-man, considered pro. It was regional kind of tournament. And it was a 3-fish tournament the whole season, and they had a championship at Eufaula in June. So it is like 3,000 degrees.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
And, man, went down there to fish that tournament. I had qualified to fish the championships for $10,000. It was only roughly, I'd say 30, 40 guys. It was from, I think, kind of Georgia region, Alabama, Florida region tournament. David Lowry won. David's a big hammer, Georgia hammer. So I didn't have the plan, really planned to fish the tournament. Like I wanted to, but I didn't. It's going to take money. There's still an entry fee. Had to borrow a boat. Didn't have a boat really. I was having to borrow boats because I'd get mine working and then something would break. And so I go to fish this tournament on, best I can remember, either no practice or like 1 day of practice. And didn't have really any experience at Eufaula, maybe fished there once or twice before. And go down there to fish this tournament. of course, it's for 10 grand. And I'm thinking if I win this 10 grand, I'm just free and clear forever.
You're set to go.
Right. So I borrowed the entry fee from my dad, and he took his boat down there and took it down there, and I went fishing. And man, the first day of that tournament, I best I can recall, I think I was second or third from last place. It's 3-fish tournament. I may have had 5 or 6 pounds on 3 fish. And man, I want to keep fishing. Like I just want, I can fish better than that, And so I'm fishing the second day, and I'm just as lost as I was first day. I'm so lost, like I don't even remember if I had any fish at all at that time. And it is, when I say it is like hot, I mean it is like don't touch the lid on your boat or the little metal latch. Like you're gonna burn yourself hot. And so it's probably 1 or 2 o'clock at this point. And
sun's just beating down.
Yeah, I mean, like the day's over with. Like, it's summertime, and if you're going to catch them pretty well, you're going to need to be catching them pretty early. I didn't have any idea about ledge fishing or brush piles. I didn't have a clue. I just fished the bank. That's all I did, way back in a creek somewhere, whatever. And so I'm fishing this little place, and I'm like so out of options. Like I'm just like done. Like I don't even know what else to try. And so I'm fishing this place, and I'm kind of beat up, like mentally, kind of like
you're
trying to make this work. Just fishing in general. Like I had got to that point to where I'd graduated college, probably about the year before, was doing the lure business thing, but is this really like a path for a career? Is this something you're just going to do as a hobby? And I remember sitting down in that boat, and this is what kind of gets me choked up. I mean, it definitely did. I was sitting there and I prayed, like, Lord, if this is what you want me to do, you gotta show me a way, because I'm out. And everybody can see this. I don't mind them seeing this.
No,
this
buddy,
right
go
here
ahead.
is probably one of the most powerful moments of my entire life. It is. I wish I could paint this picture any better. It is so hot. I'm sitting in a lily pad field. I mean, there's bugs swarming in my face. I'm just out. I'm done. Like, I'm gonna fish till it's over, but I'm not getting any bites.
Right.
I literally stand up first cast, throw a frog, and like a 4-pounder just annihilates it. That cast. After I've been sitting on the boat nearly in tears, like, you got to show me a way, because I don't think I'm going to get home, and catch a fish, and like, that ain't no accident. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I've thrown a frog from one end of this lake to the other.
Right.
Ain't had a bite. You know what I mean? So I got a fish. Like, I got something. Okay, I throw it around a few more minutes, don't catch anything else. And I'm right near this little river channel place, and been painting some crankbaits at the time. Was painting one that was bluegill color that was working pretty good for me. Some other guys, were throwing it around the state. And I picked this crankbait up, and I'm cranking, and I'm just, I got one. At least I got something,
right.
And I think I got a little bit of a sign. Like, I had that feeling that, like, there's no coincidence there.
Oh, I know.
And what happened in the next 20, 30 minutes was, it was out of this world. Like, I was throwing a crankbait, had no idea. We ain't got no depth finders or anything.
Right.
And I'm sitting here throwing this thing. I throw it at this one spot. I'm like out of spots to try. And I hook a fish, and it's a big one. It's 5-pounder. And this water is like got bubbles in it. It's so hot.
Right.
Catch this fish, and he's barely hooked. And I'm fighting him, and I'm just like, get in the boat. And this fish jumps, catch him in the net. And at that moment was like, this is showing me that way. And I sit there and just keep catching them and keep catching them and keep catching them. And I literally got tears just running down my face, because this was way beyond anything that made sense fishing wise. This was something that, like, this was 100%. I saw it as an answer to what I had just. There was no reason why I should have been catching those fish at that moment. Like, that didn't make any sense.
Right.
There's no reason why there should be a group of fish like that there where there was. And I look back at it now, I would never even fish anywhere around there, because you think you know where to look for them.
Right.
And didn't win, but got second, came from literally like last place all the way to second, had the biggest bag of the day, maybe of the tournament. I can't remember. It was 3 fish, and I think they were like 14 pounds. Mm-hmm. And, so to me, second was just outstanding. I mean, there was no way in the world I thought I was going to get second from where I was. And that was that moment where I was like, I'm going to keep going on. And to have a chance to share that just with y'all, that's not something that I really ever talk about a whole lot. I like to talk about it kind of one-on-one, but it's hard to talk about that because I wish I could explain.
It's good stuff, though,
that
man.
moment in time it was like time stopped and nothing made sense as to why those fish were biting. And
but you can look back on it now and you know it makes sense.
Absolutely. And there's been a lot of times I feel like you've been tested moving on. I've been tested in the past years. Like, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this. And then I was like, yeah, I'm going to keep doing it.
Oh, no, listen, dude, that's good. That's great stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I could end the podcast.
I was trying not to just like, break down talking about
listen,
it.
You know, there's emotion there. And I mean, that's a time that means something to you. That's a time when, you think the Lord showed up, and showed me that. And everybody has that time. So, or should, I hope has that time. I've had it, I know exactly what
Absolutely.
the feeling.
And I think that something that's kind of come to my mind more, not just, it's a little reminder that, hey, sharing that with other people is what we're supposed to do.
Exactly.
Keeping that inside and just keeping it a secret, that's not what our job is.
Well, there could be another guy sitting on a hot lake in the middle of summer with bugs flying around needing 3 fish who will be in the exact same position. And you never know how just one word on a podcast or one little section can positively influence them to say, you know what, maybe now's the time I need to bow my head a little bit or anything. It's not just fishing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like that it's all of our instinct. Hey, we just call on the Lord when we need something. And when everything's great, we think everything's great. Well, I think that, that was just a little way to get my attention.
Yeah.
Like, put your focus in the right place and things will find their way.
Absolutely. That's awesome. That's a great testimony, man. I appreciate you sharing it. Didn't expect to hear that tonight,
Well,
love it.
I've been thinking about this afternoon, and I wanted to find a way, and that just kind of worked out. You asked me what was that point where I was about done, like I wanted to quit.
Right.
That was that point. That was about 10 years ago, and in June. And you know what? It's funny is every time I've been back to Eufaula, that time of year, I went back and fished that place. I never caught a fish since.
Really? Well, you never know how.
That's a true story.
Yeah,
I mean,
you never know how the big guy prods yourself like me to ask that question. I didn't intend to ask that question.
I wasn't sure that I was going to dig into it, especially that early in the podcast.
Man, listen, that's great. That's good stuff. And I encourage anybody that has a story like that, tell it. It can help somebody else. So, no, great stuff. So, let's get back into the nitty gritty, though.
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Okay, so you're still going to have to grind up in the business, and you're making your way on up.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we're not even getting started good in the grind.
Right.
And I feel like this may be weird to say this, but I feel like I'm just getting started right now. I really do. Got a lot of things you want to keep doing and a lot of plans and goals and all that. But I was doing custom painted lures. I actually started doing that with my family. My cousin, who like I was referring to, his name's Jim Murray. Mm-hmm. His son's fishing some high school stuff now, does real good. He's my second cousin, I guess. We just grew up in a fishing family. His dad, my great uncle, had fished in all kind of tournaments, and Jim Murray Sr. And so our whole family fished. And I was living down in Tifton. They lived in Cordele, Lake Blackshear. I don't know if you're familiar with the area, but we all like painting lures and tinkering with lures. So all 3 of us started airbrushing baits. Mm-hmm. He showed me how to airbrush, and we started a little lure business called Custom Bass Tackle at the time. And they were like some of the closest family that I've got, and they were like my immediate family.
Right.
Even when I didn't. Even when I was still living up here, I mean, those are some of the most special people to me. We all started painting baits and doing all that. Well, my cousin Jim and I we're like brothers, so we're always competitive. One of us would paint something.
Oh yeah.
And then the other of us would try to outdo him. Well, what that did is we got pretty good at painting lures, and this was before everybody was doing it. Mm-hmm. And so we were selling some stuff online, eBay, and all that. And we had us a nice little business going. And I was in college, so to me that was a good job, a good college job. And
which is good because my son in college is constantly asking for money. So,
right.
yeah,
Well, I probably was too.
Well.
but it was a nice job, and
Right.
and it was really cool because I was doing something that I love.
Yeah.
And now the lure painting stuff now is a lot different. Everybody's painting baits and all that, and but we started painting together, and like I said, built this nice little business. And as I got older in college, I ended up starting doing my own thing and that's how I started Extreme Lure Creations. And I moved up this way, so we're kind of moved apart, not as a family, but just in direction. And so I started doing that, and I was painting baits for all these tournament guys and painting baits for lure collectors all over. And that was just that was something I really enjoyed doing and was pretty good at. It took a lot of trial and error, still does sometimes. But man, I've been so fortunate to paint for so many different guys. And what that helped do is you meet a lot of different people in different areas of the country, that network of fishing information, and you get to see what baits guys are throwing in different places, because the ones they're sending me to paint it's the juice, you know?
Right, absolutely, yeah.
And so
good intel.
Yeah, you got some good intel, and you got a good network. Well, at the time, you got the best information that you could. And I'm getting to paint baits for guys that I'm watching on TV. It's like, this is the coolest thing in the world,
I bet,
right?
yeah.
But to me, like, I love to paint, and I love lures, still do. But I love to fish. Like, I want to be outside. Like, that's where I really want to be. And that kind of paved the way to guiding, and I never intended to guide. Never set out to be a fishing guide. I love competition. Like, I love tournaments. That's what I like to do. Grew up playing sports, so I love any type of competition.
Right.
And one guy asked me if I would take a friend of his that was coming to town to out fishing. I'm like, yeah, sure. I didn't really view it as a guide trip, although I was being paid to go. And that just kind of one thing just kind of opened its way to the next. And over the years, I've still done both. Now, in more recent years, I don't hardly paint at all anymore, and I'm transitioning that in a whole nother direction. Not trying to throw too much in here at once.
Let's go.
But one thing just kind of paved the way for the next. And looking back, things tend to make sense. At the time, you don't really see it all. But over looking back, it just kind of one thing worked its way into the next. And it is a process, and everybody's process is different. I mean, what is something that I've been more recently reminded is you can't compare yourself to this guy. I mean, you can want to accomplish what maybe he's accomplished or set your own goals. You should. Everybody should set goals, but you're you. You're you and I'm me, and we got our own process, and you gotta learn how to love that process. You gotta learn how to accept sometimes you get bumped on the head, and everything's not a straight path. Sometimes you got to zigzag or step back and then move forward,
Yeah.
And I think that is something that in conversation I see a lot of times with young folks fishing. Like I said, spend a lot of time with them. They think it's just a straight path, and I probably did too when I was their age. But you gotta grind through it.
Let's enlighten those that are listening about that path a little bit, because as with any path, there's highs, there's lows. You curveball here, curveball there. So maybe share a little wisdom that you've learned, from guiding and from fishing professionally.
Yeah. So you gotta I could talk about this till tomorrow.
That's all right. We got all night, man. That's the beauty about it being our show.
One thing that I can say that I wish that I would have done a little bit differently, maybe put it that way.
Yeah.
Hindsight's always 20/20.
Absolutely.
Right? Well, is that try to lump too many things in at once, or didn't know how to let go of a bad day on the water. So early on, I see a bad day on the water as just like, this is just terrible.
Yeah.
And then as I fished and learned to understand that those bad days, I truly believe this, are probably some of the best days you'll ever have. And people are like, well, what do you mean? Like, you didn't catch them. If you keep your mind open, that's the day to learn from. When you go out there and you fish and everything goes how you expect it to go, you're going to catch big fish all day, which rarely happens.
Right.
Those days we feel like we know how to do everything. We're not really learning a whole lot. Those days where you get a little clue, but you don't get them in the boat, or those little days like that, but they don't look good on paper. You didn't have a good tournament weight or something. if you keep your mind open and you stay positive about it, that's the day that you can learn the most from. It took me a long time to learn that. And there's been times recently where you still have to check yourself on that. But one thing about fishing in general is the sky's the limit, right? Anything can happen any given day. There's no limits to what can happen out there. I think that's why we all love it. You can't master the game.
Well, it's the unknown.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no way to achieve, like you could win 10 Bassmasters Classic, but you could always win 11. You know, there's no way to say I've done it all. There's always a bigger fish out there than the one you caught.
Yeah, we had a buddy that said that every cast is different. I mean,
Right.
just anything, just from placement, or I mean, it's always changing.
There's a different variable.
Always.
And there's so many variables that you can't control. And that's something that, to me, just, I guess in a nutshell, just to say, you've got to learn how to accept those bad days, but you got to leave them right there. And try to start the next day with a good attitude, fresh outlook. Now, that can be really, really hard to do.
Right.
And sometimes you got to do it, but you still just can't quite get it.
Well, how do you do it? I mean, do you have a process that, for those days is just a mental thing?
I'm probably not the best at it. I've got some buddies that I admire their skill set there. But I try to get better at that. And I feel like as an angler, at least for me in my experience, is that I've had times where everything was felt like I was figuring it out. 2016, 17, that kind of time frames, having some good tournaments, and everything was just kind of going as planned. And 18 has some real good tournaments too. And then all of a sudden last year, you figure it out, but everything's wrong. You're overthinking it, fishing under a little bit of pressure that was a little outside pressure. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I was kind of carrying that into the next tournament. And there was a lot of different things going on at that time that didn't have my mind 100% on fishing. But, that's why this year I kind of want to step back for a second, get a few things sorted out, and then, keep pressing on. I'm still fishing tournaments this year and still got a lot more coming up. But it's just learning how to accept those bad days, leave them there, learn from it, and keep pressing on.
Gotcha,
Don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. How many times have you heard somebody say, I'm selling my boat, all my rod?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
All the time.
I say it all the time.
All the time.
Even if it's Josh's boat and I still want to sell it.
Yeah.
Sometimes
we
terrible.
all have tough days, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fishing,
Yeah, absolutely.
But, the opportunity that we get to do that, man, it's so awesome. And, we just got to stay grounded in the fact that, like, hey, tomorrow's a new day. The fish don't know what happened yesterday. That's a common phrase, but it's true. And just remember that every day's a new day. Absolutely.
So your plans, you've taken a step back this year. What are your plans going forward?
Absolutely. So I want to 100% get back to tour level competition, and had a qualification to do that this year on the 2-year qualification from the 2 years I fished the FLW Tour. Mm-hmm. Last year was extremely tough for a few different reasons. And just didn't fish well. Was kind of letting other stuff kind of get in the middle of fishing. Had a curveball thrown at me that I did not see coming at all. And hey, that's life. We all gonna have a curveball, whether it's fishing, whether it's health or family or whatever. We all gonna have a curveball. Do you stand back and let it go right by, or do you hit it square in the mouth? That's kind of my attitude about it. And I felt like that. Hey, I need to get a little better business platform. It's hard to go out and fish competitively when you're gone 200 days a year. Yeah. You're balancing your sponsor obligations, and you're trying to practice and pre-practice and all these different things, and you're trying to run a guide business, and you're trying to balance a lure business and all that. It was too many things going on for me at the time. So I said, hey, let me get a few things sorted here and get a little better understanding moving forward. And there's a lot of changes going on in the fishing tournaments too. Mm-hmm. That was another additional kind of thing for me that said, let's let the dust settle just a little bit. There's a lot of changes going on with different organizations, different formats starting up.
Yeah, I can't even keep up with them.
Right. I think it's really exciting, and that's a whole nother topic to talk about. But I just knew this year it was the right thing. So although I miss being out there fishing, I feel like that last year, to some degree, it never even happened. Like, I don't really even remember going to those tournaments. It was just, there was a lot going on. I mean, I do remember every bit of it.
Yeah, but you just weren't focused.
Right. And I've 100% tried to be. But I was finding the fish. I mean, I was finding fish to do well, and just one thing sometimes it may have been another little tap on the shoulder, like, hey, get this together, and then you'll be good. So taking my lure business, what I had kind of let sit aside for the last few years, just didn't have the time to invest in it. Hard bait design and lure design has been something that I've always been passionate about from day one. From tinkering with my cousin and my uncle and painting baits and all that. Swim baits and like the baits that we throw kind of around here in our region is something that, like, to me, that's the best fishing ever.
Yeah.
Like,
right
I
down
like
your
catching
alley.
them on everything, jigs and worms and crankbaits and all that. But like when they come up and they're chasing top water and they're smashing baits, that's the coolest thing in the world to me.
It is.
And I have a ton of different swim baits that I have modified and built, and I painted them for guys from California to here and there and everywhere else. And
you didn't bring us one tonight?
nobody's seen the one that's coming out. So nobody's seen it other than me and probably the guy that I've worked with on designing it. So I'm still kind of in the early stages, but to create a lure business is something I've always wanted to do, but I don't feel like I had put the time wasn't right. And I feel like the time now is now. I mean, at the right time. And to create a high quality lure that's specific to the type of lakes that I guide on, and we fish all around Hartwell and Chattooga and Lanier and all that. Those big spotted bass, they respond to a herring bait like nothing else. When the time's right, they don't bite it all the time. But that to me is just something that I have a lot of experience in and a lot of passion for the lure building process and the tinkering with it and the weighting it and all that kind of stuff. So like I said, it's still in the early stages, but definitely going to take that company, that brand moving forward and start to develop hard baits for production. So that's something I'm really excited about. And that's a whole new venture there.
Right.
So been super fortunate though to over the years build some good friendships with guys who are very experienced bait designers. I've got one buddy out in California that is phenomenal. To me, he's the best lure designer in the industry, and he's what I refer to as a garage guy. I mean, he does it, and the best. Mark this down. Anybody watching, the best lure builders in this country. Not going to throw any of my buddies that work for big companies in the industry under the bus, but the best guys are those guys that are doing it at home, in the basement, the garage, their shop. That's where the talent is. And, you know, very fortunate to have a good friend there, and we're going to kind of work together on some things. And so I'm excited about that. I mean, that is something I've been putting a lot of time in, trying to understand, you know, the process of like, how do you take this lure and how do we make it and how we duplicate it and how do we get that just right? Because I'm too much of a perfectionist on that stuff.
Right.
I don't want to come out with a bait that's not right, you know. So I'll take my time.
Is it going to be under Extreme or is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Extreme Lure Creations, it'll be more than likely the main name moving forward. And actually, the shirt that I've got on, we started. Me and my buddy Kerry at 400 Inc. You may know Kerry, over here in Dawsonville. We were coming up with some shirt ideas, and so we were always talking about mag spots. Lanier is where everybody talks about mag spots. So we just made some shirts up or something cool. People had asked me for some shirts, you know, hey, went fishing with you, want to buy a shirt? You know, why don't you have any shirts? Well, then that whole name kind of come up and was like, hey, that might be something that I can work into this lure. This is what these baits are built for, right? For big spotted bass.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of the direction. This may be kind of a little spin-off under that. And I've got a lot of other plans with that moving forward, but, you know, hey, you can only take on so many at one time.
Right.
Again, you got to work your way up that ladder. So
it's the process. That's what you keep
right.
saying.
So
like
that,
Nick Saban there.
Yeah.
It's the process.
It's the process.
It's the process.
It is a overused word, but it is the truth. You know, it's that trial and error, you know, working your way up, taking your licks, pay your dues, and keep moving forward. And that's something that I certainly have a lot of stories of experience in that, and I'll probably have a lot more too. But that's a big that's one of the things that's on the front burner for me coming up is trying to get that out to everybody. Everybody's kind of seen some little glimpses of it in the water. It's bad to the bone, man. I mean, it is the right swim bait. And I think it's something that I want to build to where it's a high detail and a high quality bait. But I want to try to get that to where it's in an affordable price range that, I mean, those baits are expensive. We all know that because there a lot goes into them and they're hard to build. But to still try to keep it to where it's something that we can all use and all that. So
That's awesome.
it's fun process.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm happy for you. Are you still going to fish? What do you plan on fishing? Do you have any specific plans?
Yeah, absolutely. So this year, specifically, fishing the Savannah River BFLs because of the championship here at Lanier. So I fished the first couple this year. Honestly, so many things going on. I pulled up that morning, fished the tournament, came home, get my fish, get some points. Kind of nervous, pulling up to a lake you hadn't been to in a while.
Right.
Trying to fish a BFL, because don't let anybody fool you. Those guys are just as good at catching bass as anybody else.
Absolutely.
They're, especially in our region here. I mean, there is some. I mean, the list is long of guys that will take your money any day. But so fish those, and we'll fish those out this year to try to make the Lanier Championship. That's something that's always really cool when they got a championship here at Lanier.
Yeah.
And I will fish a few other AAA level events this year, and tend to fish a Bass Open at Hartwell and a couple of the Toyota Series, maybe Seminole and some of these lakes. They're relatively close by, just to kind of stay competitive and all that. And I definitely intend to qualify for a pro circuit again, maybe next year or the year after. So,
any particular one you really want to go to, or
I mean,
you can't say right now? Or?
No. It's not that. There's a lot of moving parts in the tournament game right now. I personally, if you want to know my opinion, there's too much pro level tournament fishing going on right now. We all love having a lot of different angles to, we could watch the Classic's going to be happening this week, and we got the BPT and the Bass Elite, and then we got the FLW Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit or whatever they call it now. You
think it's diluted the?
No, it's just. I'm gonna try not to get too opinionated here.
No, that's fine.
But I think that things are slowly coming together. I'd like to see everybody in the, fishermen. I like this organization. I like that organization, and I like this way. I like 5 fish. I like 100 fish. We all got to be on the same page.
Yeah.
Fishing industry. We're all on the same team here.
What page are you on?
I'm on the page that has the best business model attached to it. It's the most realistic for guys to actually move forward and make a living as they do that. And
is that
all
out there?
I'll say.
Okay.
Now, I love guys at Bass, and I'll fish some of those tournaments this year and FLW and all that. If everything was as it was portrayed to be, there wouldn't be a new organization forming up. It's tough.
Right.
Guys don't really wrap their head around what $60,000 worth of entry fees and expenses really looks like. $60,000, and some may cost more. If a guy lives far away, if a guy's fishing multiple circuits, he may have $70,000, $80,000 wrapped up in that year. And the truth of the matter is that sponsors don't cover all of that for everybody. There's a small percentage of those that do that. Now, each individual can work his own deals, but I feel like I'm walking on a piece of glass or something right now.
I'll help you up, but you just do what you got to do.
I can just speak to my experience with it, and everybody's got their own, like I said, learning process and their own experiences. I think that in today's era with social media and everything's on our phone or on our computer right there in front of us, it's hard for some people in the industry to kind of accept it because it's different. It's changed. We all know how that is. People like seeing fish get caught.
Yeah.
And I don't have a dog in the fight. I love bass. I love FLW. I grew up watching them all. I love them all. I have a lot of friends that work in these organizations. I like tournament fishing.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch the Classic, and I'll watch the BPT and everything in between. I love it all. But I hear a lot of people get in my boat that don't have tournament experience referring to seeing all these fish get caught. Like I said, I don't have a dog in the fight.
So you're saying, you're talking about the person that's not in it, just somebody in the boat. They like the, 100 fish format, stuff like that.
The reality of it is that you can go, if your guy really looks, I hate hearing the word dink fest. When you and I go fishing, are we catching all 4-pounders?
Yeah, no, absolutely no.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Most of the fish we're catching are this big, and then
Yeah.
you get a bigger one, and this big and get a bigger one. Those guys are going fishing, and they're cracking. They're dialing in on the best pattern. So the guy who's catching fish left and right,
He's on it. Yeah.
He is catching fish. Whether he's got a 6-pounder in there or he's got a 2-pounder, whatever, he is catching fish. And the whole myth of running around the lake throwing a little worm, going to catch 100 1-pounders. Like, if you think you can go catch 100 1-pounders, you call me because I want to go.
I would love to see it because it don't happen.
And I would be laughing. I'd be having the time of my life if I
Right.
caught 100 1-pounders. So I don't like hearing people. I don't like hearing people. We're all fishermen. We're all on the same team here.
Yeah.
Like, we want to see fishing be successful. That's my bottom line
Right.
there. I don't wish anything bad on any organization. I want to see them all be successful or find ways to work together.
Yeah.
And I think we're starting to see some of that. So, in a nutshell, there, just a lot of moving and shaking, guys going from this tournament to that tournament and all that. So, I think that the future looks bright. I mean, there's a lot of, you got the high school tournaments and the college tournaments. You got that, expanding leaps and bounds. And now you've got, a path where a guy could potentially work his way up to tour level fishing and not have an entry fee. And that is what I've fished in some of those tournaments. I know that would be like, that's the goal, because
Right.
I don't think that people realize that an aspiring angler, just because you get a chance to fish FLW Tour or just because you get a chance to fish the Bass Elite Series, it's not like Heaven's Light just opens up on you and everything's good. Now you got to come up with $100,000.
Yeah.
You got to buy a truck and a new boat or a tournament equipment that you can compete
Right.
on.
And the standards have to be on that equipment. So, I mean, they're not going to let you just come in there with
Well,
a
you can-
78, Ranger. You gotta have
I
something.
guess you could.
You could, but I thought some of the higher.
Yeah,
leagues,
there are
that-
some
there's
certain
specifics.
requirements there. But too, like, to be able to compete at all over the country and these lakes and these bodies of water, I learned real quick, Lake Lanier is not very big. Lake Lanier is a little lake compared to most of these other lakes that we travel to for big tournaments. And so you got to have sound equipment. And there's a lot of travel times, a lot of time gone, a lot of lodging. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that. And it's a lot of fun. It's awesome. But, a path where a guy can actually now fish, and once he's got there, he's at least got those entry fees off his back, I think is really cool. But that's just my opinion. I know everybody's got their own.
Well, a baseball player doesn't buy a ticket to get to play the ball game.
Right.
Yeah.
And for a long time, tour level competition, guys are having to shell out a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle where you got to be pretty much 100% all in. There's not a whole lot of, you got to be focused on that, and that can take its toll on, personal time. That can take its toll on a lot of other things. But I think that, I just want to see it be successful. Whoever organization it is or however I just want to see when a guy gets there, like he's
there.
He's there. Now, does that mean he's going to make, X amount of money? No, but he's there.
He's earned the right to compete into this.
Right, because I do personally believe that the industry, hey, it's America. There's money to be made out there. If you're willing to work, there's a way to work it up, get the sponsors, save money, do what you got to do to compete.
Yeah.
I mean, 100% there is. But, I think it is cool. And I've got buddies or some of my best friends that fish in the high level tournaments that they don't agree with what I'm saying right now, and that's fine. We all have our own opinion on it. I just think, hey, we're all on the same team. So anytime that guys can sit down and find common ground, the one thing I do like about the way the direction's moving forward with both organizations is that the anglers have a lot more input into it now than they ever have before.
Right.
So I like that.
Okay.
So
Well,
that's a long.
listen.
I'm touching on fire there, but
I understand.
it's a conversation that comes up in my boat nearly every time.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? What do you think about these tournaments?
Yeah.
So
I can imagine.
that's a long-winded little touching around the edges there, but
I got you. Well, let me give you something a little easier to talk about.
that's right.
All right,
We've knocked on all the hard stuff, man.
Let's talk a little fishing for a second. On your way over here, you posted on your Instagram account, hey, you were coming to see us and asked your followers to throw out some questions, that they wanted to ask. And so we've got a couple of them right here that we're going to ask, and we'll let you
I might
answer.
check and even see if we might have another one or
You
two.
can check and see if
We've got some
that's
good
fine.
ones, though.
Absolutely. I'm going to give you the first one, though. How does recent water level changes affect your approach? And so for those that don't know, we've had rain here for like the last 285 straight days in
For
Georgia.
sure.
It is actually I saw something on the news the other day. We're like way ahead of Seattle. Everybody thinks Seattle's wet, but Georgia gets a lot more rain. And is that it? You checking now? Is that your dingers going off?
They're dinging up now.
All right, so we got them coming. But Lake Lanier is at an all-time record high, or almost to it if it didn't. It's right there.
It's crazy.
So we're seeing pictures, or we have here recently, of the campgrounds and all underwater. And, we were fortunate to get on the water the other day. It has gone down, but it's still very high, very flooded. A lot of points that are normally out of water, they're in 6-7 foot of water.
It is something else, man. Out there right now, I mean, I live not on the water, but right there close, and some of the parks there close to me, it's crazy. The water's over the white lines in the parking lot, and but a couple of things in regards to that question. It's kind of we'll give both sides of the give two different answers there.
Right.
For that. When you get that kind of water this time of year, so you got fish this time of year, they're itching to move up. They want to follow that rising water. So you're naturally going to have fish. It's just kind of like a perfect storm. Fish want to move shallow, and then all of a sudden you get this massive influx of water. So you're going to have fish that tend to kind of follow that water line. Now, I don't mean they're going to be like nose against the bank, but they're going to be relatively shallow. Let's say less than 6-8 feet.
Okay.
A lot of times. They want to be up there anyway this time of year. And you also get a lot of stained water too. So that fish are naturally going to be more shallow when it's stained. And
why is that, you think? Because I've heard a lot of people say that.
100%. So the reason being is, and now Lanier's a little different than every lake doesn't necessarily fall into this category, but Lanier is generally clear from top to bottom. We know that. So this is just my personal opinion. Most of these fish in this lake don't get to experience dirty water. When I'm saying that, I'm referring to your mid-creek, main lake fish. Now backs of pockets and stuff, they're always going to get stained up, might have a large mouth, or there is spots that relate shallower bank-oriented fish. But the majority, the bulk of our spotted bass, they don't get to experience dirty water. So all of a sudden the lake starts getting dirty. You get a big mud line out Three Sisters or something like this is like there's the world coming to an end. Yeah. They don't know what to do. So they start to rely, they're very heavy sight feeders. Well, now you've taken that away from them. They've got to start kind of relating on that lateral line, that vibration, kind of picking up on stuff. And Siri is talking to us here. Let's put the phone back.
There you go.
Siri's going to answer your question for you faster than I can.
That's fine. You're doing great.
So fish are naturally going to orient more shallow. It's the same thing they do at nighttime too. A lot of times at night, a fish is going to kind of move up into an area because they start relying on, like I said, more of that vibration, what they pick up in the water that way. And they're also more comfortable too in the sense of a clear water fish. So Lanier, a lot of times you can see 6-8 feet, and you can imagine from overhead how much more you can see down from a bird's eye view, so to speak. Well, a bird is a predator of a fish, especially a shallow fish. Ospreys and eagles and blue herons and all those stuff, shorebirds. So a shallow fish in clear water, he's got to be kind of sneaky, or he's got to sit off just deep enough to where he's safe, 10, 12, 15 foot. So when it's dirty, he feels a little more comfortable up there. He feels a little safe. He's got some protection,
Just you think something instinctively in the fish.
Right, absolutely. I feel that way. And you can, seen a lot of times over the years where that they tend to gravitate more shallow.
Right.
Now, on the other end of that, we have a large portion of fish in this lake that they don't even know what's going on up there. Like, they're 30, 40, 50 foot. Like, they could care less. If it's snowing tomorrow, they could care less. If it's pouring down rain, if the water rises 4 feet, they're
staying at 30, 40
care
feet.
less. They have no idea if it's 70 degrees tomorrow or 30. Like, they move down to a certain depth range, stable conditions.
Yeah. That's what I was getting ready to say. They just find something in that area that is, hey, no, this is comfortable.
Yeah.
That's
Water level. Temperature is stable. Oxygen level's good. Bait is readily available. They're going to be where food's at. Just like us, we're never going to be too far away from some food.
Lord knows I'm not. Right.
Hey, you gotta be eating. So they're going to be around bait, and they are going to be in a stable environment. And a lot of spotted bass, generally speaking, they're going to be out there. Now, that depth range might not be specific. It can range from 20 to 50, 60 foot. And some of them even just, I believe, just wander over open water at their set comfortable depth.
Yeah.
Striper guys all the time running into these big spots that all of us tournament guys would love to catch, but we can't catch them. But they're wandering around in the river channel just following bait. And that's what herring spotted bass are known to do. A lot of their stuff doesn't really make sense because it's not by the book of what we all know is in bass fishing. So it's pretty interesting.
You think the herring itself is what changes that behavior?
Absolutely. And a spotted bass in general is a more pelagic fish anyway. They're more comfortable living in open water. And there are largemouth that adapt to it for sure. You know, throughout the year, I always tell people about a handful of times we'll catch largemouth offshore. Now, I don't mean on a main lake point. I don't mean on a bridge column or a wall or something like that. I mean like out
in the middle of where it shouldn't be.
Like 2 rifle shots from the shoreline. You know what I mean? Like,
right, yeah.
Like way out. And when you do catch them out there, they're usually big. They're healthy.
And they've adapted to that lifestyle like a spot.
I personally believe there's a lot more of those in these lakes in Lanier and Hartwell and Chattooga than we realize. I think I've seen them. I seen them one time, and it was like it was like it was like a dream. I literally saw a whole school of largemouth come up. One of them was chasing my bait. They were 100% all largemouth. It was about this time of year. It was a massive school of largemouth. The clearest water on Lanier, open water. It's like a big group of females, big largemouth.
Right.
And hooked one of them. And I was in a BFL. I had a co-angler that witnessed it as well. It was like a glimpse of a ghost, and you never saw him again. And
the Loch Ness monster.
Right. Like that one day you saw Bigfoot, you thought you did. But then you're like, I have nothing to really prove that I saw him.
Right.
But you do catch some out there, and they're pretty fish. They're healthy fish, and they're adapted to like more of a high-speed feeding. You know, you can see they're a little shorter, they're compact. Pretty interesting. Caught a couple this year that I can think of that come to mind that are, when you catch them at first, they look like a spotted bass. I've got one picture of one. This fish is literally that big, largemouth, probably touching almost 5 pounds.
Like 9
it's like a torpedo.
Yeah.
He looks like our spotted bass.
Right.
Dude. I posted a picture of him on an Instagram page. This has probably been, say, roughly a year ago. And people were commenting back like, are you sure that's not a spotted bass? Yeah. If you look at it, it's 100% a largemouth, but you can tell that is a herring largemouth right there.
Has adapted to the bait in the lake.
Right. And I think that they live in those schools, but oftentimes that spotted bass is going to get that lure first, and all of a sudden that school disperses.
Right.
I've seen them on underwater camera, offshore, big largemouth.
Have you seen any hybridization between the spots and the largemouth?
Not here. I have not. Now I've seen hybridization from different fish in different lakes, but I have not here.
Okay.
I mean, maybe like now spotted bass, there's all kinds of levels of their hybridization. If you go to Hartwell, we joke around. I think there's like 7 different types of spotted bass in that lake.
Okay.
You can look at somebody's pictures, and one of them has got bars like this. One of them looks like he come out of 6 Mile Creek. The other one is, he's brown and got patterns all over the side of him.
Just a bunch of mutts.
Mixed with red eyes.
Yeah.
Now, a spotted bass is really cool, but overall, they're an invasive bass species all over the Southeast.
Yeah.
Lanier didn't have any of them at one point in time. A lot of these lakes, they were largemouth lakes. May have had a few, but not many to speak of. Now, Lanier is one of those lakes that it has just turned into just the perfect environment for them. Mm-hmm. And then we have other lakes too, as you know, Burton and Chattooga and Carter's, and I'm not trying to leave any of them out, but there's a lot of other ones too.
Well, I think it's just this area, something about the lakes.
Mountain water.
Yeah, North Georgia. It's
Deep.
just perfect for spots.
Right, perfect for spots. It's deep. You got that cool, high oxygen water. It's just a perfect environment for them. Big spots. But also on spotted bass in general, you go to the Coosa River in Alabama, it's like looking, you can't see any more through that water like you could through this table.
Buddy, I've been in it. Yeah, it's terrible.
Right, and they catch big, giant spotted bass over there.
Yeah.
The bigger is bigger than we catch them, and they are biting, flipping jigs and chartreuse spinner baits.
They've adapted to that environment.
Absolutely. So that is one thing about a spotted bass in general. He can adapt anywhere. Whereas largemouths tend to, they do adapt, but they tend to get out competed because the spot's super aggressive.
Yeah.
They're a lot like a smallmouth in the sense of I mean, they got something different going on up there. They're not all there sometimes.
Yeah, they're strange.
I've seen some stuff. I got to say this. I know I'm going way down, get off on a tangent.
Hey, any rabbit hole you want to go, I told you that.
So I hope that the guys that might be watching this, that maybe they'll watch this, the guys that were with me that day. There's 2 guys in the boat with me, and they're both from our area over here. I haven't spoke to them in a while, not for any reason, just hadn't spoke to them. It was roughly 7-8 years ago on a trip. And it was about this time of year, good day of fishing. I mean, we had caught some nice spots, largemouth. Even the guy had a 30-plus pound striper. It's the biggest striper anybody ever caught me on a client trip.
And this is on a guide trip.
On a guide trip.
I bet you didn't expect a 30-pound striper.
No, it was, man, it was something else. It was just a good
perfect storm.
day.
Yeah.
Right. And we used to catch a lot of big stripers out here. I mean, I took it for granted. We catch 20-pounders all the time. Mm-hmm. And now, just due to the kind of cycle, and all lakes go through different cycles of successful hatches and all that, we're kind of at a point, we got a lot of stripers, but a lot of them are, 6 to 12 pounds.
Yeah.
And there's bigger ones too, but that's just, they're good fishing size right now.
Yeah.
Sometimes those 20-pounders are fun, but sometimes you hook up with them in a tournament and you're like, what's going to be? I'm going to have to break him off, or I'm going to have to fight him for 10 minutes.
Especially if you're throwing one of these high-dollar swim baits.
Or a jerk bait or anything.
Yeah.
So we were fishing this day, and the guy's got him a big striper, and he's got him a big largemouth, and we were just having a good day. We're catching a lot of spotted bass. Well, he hooks a 4-pound spot on a jerk bait, and he's fighting it. And it's one of those days that it's just been a good day. So, like, hey, just reeling him in. It's a big one, but they're not, like, panicking, like, getting the net. This fish jumps off, and we're in relatively shallow water. I mean, you could see it was like 10 foot. See, it was on like kind of an old sandbar. This fish jumps and throws a bait. All right, happens. 100% these same fish, because somebody's going to watch him like, I don't know about this, Rob. I don't know if you're telling the truth. This fish hits the water, bait hits the water, the fish does a U-turn, turns around and smokes it. Now, he's already been fighting him. The fish is jumping, carrying on.
Right.
It's not like he just hooked it, it come off, and he bit it again.
You think he's just pissed off at the next thing
They're
he
not.
saw?
They're not all
Right.
there. Maybe that's why we get along so good. Me and Spotted Bass.
There you go. It could be, man. I understand.
But they're super interesting fish. They're highly aggressive, and smallmouth can be that way too.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that, there's sometimes it doesn't seem like you can do anything to get one to bite.
Yes.
They'll follow it. Look at it.
That's frustrating.
They'll
Watch
chase
them
it back
follow
to the boat.
Yeah, turn around and go.
And the littlest thing can trigger him.
Yeah.
Where largemouth, I mean, he's got times and things that he likes too, but he's a little more even keeled.
Yeah.
He'll sit on a log and he'll wait for something to come by. A spot, he's always looking.
Always, yeah.
He's like a shark. I mess around and joke, put like a little emoji of a shark sometimes when they're hitting top water. It's like some of that stuff is insane what they do out there, and a lot of that stuff I've never been able to really. I've got a lot of cool stuff on video, but there's some of that stuff that's happened where I haven't been able to quite get it on video. I've actually got some really cool video that I haven't put up yet. I got from last year that's going to kind of come out in a little project that I'm working on this year.
Yeah.
Just some interesting things that I believe really only happen on these lakes, where these fish will pack up. And I mean, when they're coming, like he ain't getting out of there. Like, when they're after it, like they work as a team. Yeah. And it's super interesting to watch how much video I've got of them hitting with their mouth shut. Like the first fish, he's coming up through there. His mouth is 100% closed almost every single time. Really? Yep. They do. It's like a team. Like watching them as like watching a killer whale on National Geographic.
Like a pod of them. One does. They all have a specific job to do to help.
And I think they just naturally just like whoever gets to it first, you just kill. Like try to kill. Like you just knock them, slow them down. Because a herring is extremely fast. You're not reeling your bait faster than a herring can dart and swim and get out of there. I think people see herring sometimes at Hammond's or Oakwood or whoever's got herring, and they see them in the tank and they're all just kind of in there. They're lively because they do a great job keeping them live, but they're confined. You see one in a lake or have one actually try to get underneath your boat because he's scared for his life. Like watching how fast that thing's.
I gotta go, man.
Yeah, like I got to do something. It's like a flash, like a bullet. Yeah. I mean, it's like a little silver, just like gone. Yeah. And I've heard it said they can swim over 30 miles an hour. I have no idea on the science behind that. That's just 100% a number that was thrown out there to me.
But you've seen it though.
I've seen them come by so fast it looked like it was just like a blur.
And the spot's right behind them? Or,
they're in front of them. I mean, the spot, of course, he's going to swim faster than that herring can.
Yeah.
But their instinct is to stop him, hurt him, stun him. We've all seen it. How many times have anybody been fishing and you'll watch them knock your topwater up in the air, swipe at it. But on the other end of that, I do believe, like, if he wants to get it, he's going to get it.
Yeah.
That chrome topwater with all them hooks hanging off of it, I mean, it does fool them a lot of times, but sometimes.
You think sometimes
I think they hit it just because they get aggravated at it.
Yeah.
There's so much bait in a lake like Lanier, for example, or any of these lakes that we're referring to, that they're not, like, short on food.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't matter if he's this big or he's 5-6 pounds. Like, rarely you're ever going to catch one that look like he's, like, looking for a meal. Like,
yeah, there's no skinny spots out there.
No, not on these lakes. Now, there are some lakes that they, might not have as much bait, or they're not as productive of fishery as ours are right here. But I think sometimes they just bite it out of meanness. I mean,
ever think they just sit there and hold my beer? Here we go. I'm gonna go
Pretty much. It's interesting to see how
it's twice my size, but I'm gonna hit it.
I'm gonna hit them anyway.
Yeah.
Like, they're mean, and I remember.
And I've heard that said that spots are just mean.
Mean. I remember. It was a few years ago down at Bass Pro Shops at the tanks down there. Was doing some stuff down there with those guys, and I was hearing that some of the big spotted bass in the tank at the time, they were bullying other fish. I remember on an old phone that I had, I don't have the video anymore. It was an old phone that got in the lake.
You had the razor or the flip phone.
Something got wet. I have a tendency to lose some phones to the water.
I'm sure you do.
But I had a video. I mean, he'd be bullying big blue cats. He'd just swim up to them and just brush off of them, push them with his head. Just like, I ain't got nothing else to do. I'm just going to go over here and just pick on the biggest guy in this tank, Like,
so he's got the Napoleon complex, little man syndrome. Like, that's what they say I used to have. It's, all right, you're twice my size. Let's go.
You look like a good one to pick out of the crowd.
That's not always the smartest thing to do, but if they come back,
spots are wild. But anyway, I know that's a lot of stuff there, but they're super interesting fish. I mean, I feel like I learn something about them all the time.
No, we're going to continue on the spot, because you had a question about spots and spawning. Kind of, how do they spawn? When do they spawn?
Right. So I'm about to throw all y'all like a curveball here, because I remember showing some of the representatives with the DNR last year a picture of a fish that I've got, and they both looked at each other like wow, this is really interesting. I don't think we've really seen this before. A spot on our lakes up here, they spawn for a long, long time. Now, the bulk of them are going to spawn in traditional time of year, late March to throughout April, depending on weather conditions and all that. The traditional times that fish are going to move to the bank. There are spotted bass in these lakes that spawn on that full moon in May, in June, in July. I've got a picture of one in August. 100% spawn. This has been years ago. It wasn't a recent catch. Middle August. Big, giant spotted bass. One of the biggest ones I've ever got. 6 pounds, 4 ounces. A guy caught years ago. Swollen belly. Tail's just bleeding like spawning fish would. Actually, the yellow eggs coming out of its belly. Second week of August.
Really?
Now, people say, well, they spawn twice. No, I don't think so. I think that those fish, there's so many fish that they live out in that timber, that open water. And I think a lot of it has to do with they were born, but you will commonly see fish, spotted bass specifically, spawning still in June and July. I believe a lot of those fish wait until that water at their level that they're comfortable at. Remember we were talking about those groups of fish that live in 20, 30, 40 feet. They wait until that water gets suitable for their needs at that depth. They don't go searching it. There's different searching for it. There's different classes of fish. There's some that as soon as that water starts getting right, he's up there. He's moving. He's getting ready to set up a bed. The first visual fish that I see every year on a bed is a spotted bass every time. The water be in the mid 50s, and when it's starting to tick up, and that's only a few weeks away. The first visual fish I see, he'll be a spotted bass. He might not be big, but because there's so many spots in the lake. I'll have perfect example. I wish I could show y'all some of these pictures. I had a guy catch one in July. I believe it was last year. Top water, big spotted bass, nice 4-pounder. Pre-spawn, 100%.
Really?
Fish didn't have a mark on him. He swole up. Same thing. You're starting to see that yellow. He's ready to pop, or she's ready to pop.
Well, you never know these days.
Well, that's a whole nother podcast, and I can't comment on that.
Yeah, I'm not either. That's as much as I'm going to say.
He decides what he wants to be that day.
That's right, yeah.
Anyway, but that fish is 100% pre-spawn. It's crazy to me. And it took me years to kind of understand that. Now, those numbers of fish that are super late spawners like that, I don't think it's that high. I think a lot of times those fish are caught, and guys don't think anything about it. We don't think anything about it. He's just big spotted bass. Are
they normally bigger, the ones that are caught later in the year, do you think?
I would say on average, yeah. Those are what I always refer to as herring eaters. Like their whole life is blueback herring.
So you think maybe the spot that lives totally offshore 100% of the time, down at a certain depth,
right,
are the late spawners? Or you would
kind
of guess.
More likely to be. And now, this is theory-based. And there's a lot of stuff about spotted bass, like a herring-related spotted bass is – he doesn't really fit the book as to what I learned in college about fisheries, or as to what a lot of these other, biologists that have a lot more education on that than myself. I have 300 days on the water for 15 years education on top of a little bit of book stuff.
Right.
They don't fit the mold, and a herring is not good for a lake. It's not like, so nobody watching any of this stuff. Do not be introducing herring to lakes, because guys have tried to do that thinking, well, we're going to make Lanier. No.
Yeah. Our biologist that came on will say that. He said herring is not good for any lake.
Right.
Yeah.
The issue is here. And I have this difference of opinion with our biologist, so I might get a little on the edge here. Yeah. Our fisheries at this point are 100% dependent on blueback herring. And I want to see them starting to use our lakes. Now, I understand there's funding and there's a lot of different moving parts here. I certainly get that. There's a lot. It takes a team effort from all of us to be on board. Our lakes are dependent on it at this point. People come from all over the world to fish Lake Lanier spotted bass. You're not going to have our Lake Lanier spotted bass eating threadfins. If that was the case, all these other lakes that have spotted bass and threadfins could potentially be. What kind of lakes are just pumping out 18-pound bags of spotted bass?
Right.
They are dependent on bluebacks at this point. Our stripers are dependent on them. Everything's depending on it. Now, I know that somebody's skin's crawling watching that statement or listening to that statement. But our fisheries, our Chattooga, Hartwell. Hartwell's a little bit behind this. It's a little bit different lake too, so very similar. But Hartwell stretches long ways. It's got big creeks.
It is a big lake that way, yeah.
So herring isn't good because he does interfere, or he, just using that term, but they interfere with a lot of things. They interfere with largemouth populations tremendously. They interfere with a lot of other fish populations, because we all think bass. There's a lot of other fish out there too. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of negative impact from them. And you'd certainly never want to promote that promote anybody getting them into another fishery. In a lot of places, it's illegal.
Yeah.
And it should be, because Lanier is just kind of one of those, and some of these other lakes are like certain examples to where the spotted bass may completely thrive from them, but the other species do not. But at this point,
it is what it is, though. Like on Lanier,
our lake is dependent on that.
Yeah.
Now, herring are different animals too, and I mean they reproduce at a rapid rate. They have upswings and downswings. From my experience and my time on the water, I spend more time on that boat than I do on land. So, and now I know I'm treading on some thin ice here tonight, but
I love it.
I know you might, but some people watching this ain't gonna love it.
Hey, that's all right. But you know what? They'll have to view to watch it.
They gotta view it up. View it up. I mean, just in a nutshell, that there are a herring. They can wreak havoc on a lot, and it can take a long time for any positive side to come out of that. So, yeah, herring's a bad deal, but our fish, you're not going to sustain. If you were somehow to get rid of herring, you don't have Lake Lanier anymore. Not the Lake Lanier that you and I know.
Well, right, and everybody I've talked to have said that Lake Lanier was this. Herring, boom, now it's this.
Right.
Yeah, just an average lake before.
Right.
You know.
And I have kind of, I say, kind of a somewhat of a unique take on it because as I grew up on this lake,
Right.
from when I was an early teenager and then get my own boat around when we talked about earlier, I watched that whole transition. Now, there was some herring in there before I was out there really fishing, but
Right.
I've been able to see it from the early 2000s, 2002, 3, 4, when there's herring out there, but not now. I mean, there was still, you could still go run a pocket and go have a nice bag of largemouth where there is plenty of largemouth in the lake, but that kind of fishing is not really like that
It was
anymore.
more predominantly largemouth at one time.
Right. Okay. And there were some big spots, but like you could go catch you a big bag of largemouth just in a pocket on just fishing. You know, I mean, the potential was there.
Right.
That's not really like that anymore. They're real specific and they're kind of in certain little areas and all that. At this point in time, you're not going to reverse that. So it's almost like kind of embrace it. Let's learn about it, and then we can help understand them more because they're interesting. You're not hearing about bass spawning in July and August?
No, absolutely not. So.
And it's really interesting. So I'm going to do some video stuff this year on my YouTube and on my social media stuff where we're going to kind of tap into some of those theories and not going to be we're not promoting herring at all. So,
Right.
so I don't want that to come across the wrong way. But we're going to try to understand them a little bit more. I'm going to share some of my thoughts on it and experience in it because they're interesting fish.
Yeah.
And bass relating to them is what I'm referring to.
Right.
So anyway.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You kind of mentioned you mentioned Chattooga and Hartwell. So maybe compare those two lakes to Lanier. Let's start with Chattooga.
Right. So I don't have nearly the type of experience on those two bodies of water that I do on Lanier.
Right.
Nothing even close. Really, I've only fished, those very small amount of time. I've fished them plenty of times over
Right.
the years, but I don't feel like I know every inch of it by any means like I do here. Sometimes that's a good thing to not know too much. But Chattooga, man, that's such a beautiful lake up there. You got the deep, cleaner water. To me, it fishes more like Lanier. It's a lot smaller too.
Yes.
And it's a little easier to read because it is smaller. But there's, big spotted bass and there's big largemouth in there too. Hartwell has a lot of that same stuff. But Hartwell, to me, in my opinion, it's going through that process of like, you can fight it all you want, but you're about to have to start to embrace spotted bass. But the cool thing that Hartwell has is it's got those flat creeks and those rivers and those back areas.
Yeah.
It's got a lot more of that than what Lanier has. So there's always kind of that safe home for largemouth to do their own thing. They get in the creeks. Hartwell's got a lot of creeks and fingers up there.
Yeah, you drive up 85 and you pass a bridge over Hartwell. It seems like 15 times.
Right.
It seems like every so many exits.
Hartwell's a really cool lake. I know they just wrapped up a Toyota Series up there. But it's interesting to me in the last few years, you're starting to see tournaments be won with spotted bass.
Okay.
Now, I don't think this one this week was. Largemouth still pretty much rule the game up there most of the time. Yeah, but you're starting to see tournaments where 17-pound bags spots winning that tournament. 16 pounds, potentially even bigger than that, especially in those tough times of year where the largemouth don't tend to play a whole lot.
Right.
That guy can win on spots up there. They're starting to get bigger.
Okay.
And I grew up fishing West Point a lot too. It's kind of in that transition. So
is West Point a herring lake?
It's
coming?
And it's kind of a shame that that lake is just, to me, it's kind of had some. It hasn't had some of the best years recently. That's where I grew up fishing. My first tournament was in Lake West Point with my dad, and that's where he liked to fish a lot. And
we spent some time in LaGrange when I was a kid, so I remember
right
crappie fishing
so,
on West Point. Yeah.
That's it's. I think they lifted the ban off of it where you could use herring for bait there. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those lakes too that where the spotted bass seem to get a little bigger and those largemouth tend to get more and more scarce. So that is an example though. We're like, herring are not necessarily a good thing. Combination of herring, spotted bass, and I'm trying not to say this, but a lot of striped fish, hybrids and whites and stripers, like they equally, they feed off that environment too. And if you've got so many mouths trying to feed on a certain amount of bait, thread fins, in my opinion, cannot sustain the type of fisheries that we grow accustomed to.
Right.
A 9 or 10 pound day of bass fishing, if that's what but guys want to see that 16, 17, 18 like Lanier has,
What about gizzard shad?
They do feed a lot on gizzard shad, but as a gizzard shad gets really big, I think a spotted bass, his whole mouth and his makeup is a lot different than a largemouth.
Yeah, and the gizzard can actually outgrow it. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, he can. I mean, I'm not saying a big spot can't eat a big gizzard, but like a herring's like a little silver candy bar, just right down the mouth. I mean, he has no problem eating that. But gizzard shad, they absolutely are a big player in the system. But those fish, when they get around bluebacks, it's like tunnel vision right over here.
Yeah. They're going after the bluebacks.
I mean, he's going after that blueback.
Let me ask you this: if you could change one thing about fisheries in North Georgia, or even maybe the DNR and how they run certain things, stock certain things, anything, everything's on the table, what would you change?
Well, first thing first on that. Yeah, I know I have a way of like getting way around some of these questions, but
it's all right.
First things first, I have a lot of friends that work in the DNR. I went to college. I wanted to work in the DNR. I 100% support what they do and try to work with them any way that I can. I know that some they're great folks and they do a good job. Our lakes are a little bit different. They're not by the book. There's a lot of things they have to balance too.
Yeah.
Got the striper guys. They gotta have their fish in there, and you got your bass fishermen, and then you've also got guys that are fishing for other things too. You got crappie fishermen. You got catfish, and they got to balance it for everybody. So they got a lot.
It's a tough job.
Very tough job. And I want to make that clear because, I certainly understand that, respect that, and they need all of our help. We need to be on the same page. They get a lot of questions and a lot of people pointing fingers sometimes. They don't have a magic wand that they can. Fisheries are different. It's hard to manage something that you can't really quite see all of.
And people are really hard to make happy.
Oh, we know that.
Yeah, we know that.
We know that. If I could change any one thing, though, I think these lakes are really on an upswing. I mean, you got the generation thing, though, where guys were real accustomed to the big largemouth, and they're running up those rivers and all that. Like, I mean, you can run up that river and catch you a 6-pound largemouth now. Okay, great. But a guy with 5 3-pounders is going to beat you every day.
Yeah, every day, yeah.
And that's hard for some people to accept. It comes to accepting that change thing. We're talking about tournaments earlier.
Right.
But these lakes, I couldn't really put one thing on there. I mean, I know one. I'd like to see some trout in some of these lakes.
Lanier used to have them.
Yep.
Yeah, because I can remember my dad.
There's a lot. I'm not even going to touch into this because I know I'm going to get somebody's going to shoot me down through the YouTube or whatever. But there's a lot of differing opinions as to why they may or may not be there anymore. They don't stock them. I've caught one or two out of the lake over the years. More than likely they were just released bait, like that. Fish. But caught them on the mouth on lures. Now I know somebody caught the record last year.
Yeah.
9, 10. I don't even know the exact weight.
It was a
massive
young girl, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think a buddy of mine was actually fishing and took a picture of them. And there's a lot of different theories as to how where that fish came from. Did it live in the lake this whole life? We have all this water. Did it get pushed out of Sequoia or Chattahoochee, something like that? Those private streams up there, which more than likely, that's probably where it come from in my opinion. But again, I'm not a fisheries biologist. I don't know. It's awfully strange that a giant trout like that would show up. But nonetheless, that's a lake record. So there's still some out there swimming around.
And in fact, our buddy, one of our buddies that fishes with us on the electric only trails, Tim Wyatt, has one of the Lake Lanier records for a trout. Now, it might have been the brown. He might have caught a brown trout.
Yeah, I can't remember which one it was last year.
If you look in the GON magazine, every year they put out a Lake record edition.
Absolutely.
And if you look under Lake Lanier, Tim Wyatt's got a record brown trout or something. It's one of the species of trout. I remember back in the 70s, early 80s, being a young kid, but we would camp out on one of the Sawney or whatever it was close to the dam. And my grandfather, my uncle, my dad would go out in a boat, and they would catch trout down, just dropping straight down. They were out, 100 foot, 200 foot from the dam, dropping big night crawlers and stuff down
catching
there.
trout.
And catching trout. I still remember it, not like it was yesterday. I'm getting kind of old, but as a kid, that they would come back with some trout,
Right.
But they did it at night, and they did it down by the dam. And I'm sure I'm a little older than you are. Some of these older guys that listen to us probably have the same memories. And
I've heard a lot of stories about that. And from guys that I fished with over the years. I love a day when a guy gets in my boat that fished this lake in the 70s and the 80s, or when he was out there when the lake was first dammed up. I love listening to those stories. Like, to me, like, young guys that are watching, like, when you get a chance to fish with a guy who's been – I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about guys who've been doing it a long time. That's the day – cherish those days. Listen to those stories.
Need to listen. Absolutely,
listen to those stories. That's the day to try to just listen and fish. But, I hear a lot of those stories about the largemouth being here and catching trout down near the dam, same thing.
Yeah.
And now something came to mind, though, not to circle back on that. If I could say one thing about fisheries in North Georgia, and this is something that I can't believe it didn't come to my mind quicker. I did have a question in regards to this a little while ago, is shoal bass.
I was getting ready to bring shoal bass.
Were you really?
Absolutely.
Shoal bass to
Perfect.
me, if aside from spotted bass, he's the coolest bass that ever lived.
That's what I hear.
He is the king. To me, he lives in a whole different ecosystem than all these other bass. Now the other ones will cross over with him.
Right.
That's one thing that as anglers, now whether you fish for them or not, that a lot of times you got to go to far reaches or little creeks and streams to catch them. That's something that needs all of our attention right now. That's something that's native to here and here only. Right. I mean, there's little pieces in Florida and Alabama, but that's a Georgia fish. That's the only place in the world you can catch them. And if we're not careful, generations from now, they might not be around anymore.
Right.
And why is that? It's because hybridization with spotted bass. Spotted bass, which have their plus and their bad, their pros and cons, they're starting to intermingle with those fish, and they're getting further and further up into their habitats. And I fish for them a good bit, do guide a little bit for them, just, here and there. I'm seeing more and more of those fish in that smaller size class, let's say 2.5 pounds and under, starting to be hybridized. I can't even talk.
Yeah, no,
they're mixing up. You can see the pattern on the sides of them is broken up. Now the bigger ones are more pure shoals. You can see the markings. You can see, and I'm just saying visually. And I know that scientifically you got to look at the a lot of other stuff.
But
just
you've caught enough fish.
Right, the visual clues that you can see. Spotted a shoal bass in North Georgia. He's got that black tail dot. Kind of right where his his tail fin meets his main body. He's got that black spot there.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily like a redfish, but he's got that marking.
There, yeah.
And you got those vertical bars, and you'll see that some of them are kind of mixed up and broken, where you're starting to see, the shoals, the red eyes and spots, and they're kind of crisscrossing. It's like, that scares me because that's a special fish. And that is something that needs our focus, because we get worried about, whether it's a moratorium on them where it's like, hey, you can't be in possession of them,
right.
Or, there are some places that we have tournaments at that, you can only be in possession of one. If you go to Tennessee, some of the lakes, smallmouth, you can have one in possession over 18 inches, or 20 inches, I think, on Douglas. I mean, every lake's different.
Right.
That's something that needs our attention. That's something that, guys, if you're fishing up there, that's not a fish to bring home to eat. Now, obviously, a guy can do it each his own, whatever in the state law.
Yeah.
But I'm just putting out my 2 cents there. Like,
just because it's native and we need to protect that species.
Right. If we're not careful, we're not going to have them. And I know the state's looking into some stuff, how they can, I know that, but they only can do so much too.
Right.
They need our help.
The shoal bass, and correct me if I'm wrong. Now you have a section Chattahoochee up.
Sure.
That has some shoals, and then we're talking. You can get down into South Georgia, isn't there some shoal bass?
Absolutely, they live all the way down to where the Chattahoochee turns into Seminole, below the Seminole dam down there. I think it's live down that way. The Flint River, the Mulgy River, and there's a lot of other tributaries and fingers that.
So it's just everywhere.
Right, everywhere. It sounds everywhere. Excuse me.
In Georgia, yeah.
Right, but they're little confined little areas, and.
Okay.
It's not like they typically live in fast water, that current, that moving water.
Right.
You're not going to accidentally catch one down here around Browns Bridge. Like, that's not going to happen.
Right.
Or the likelihood is highly unlikely.
So they're very specific oriented fish.
They live right there on the edge of that trout water. As a matter of fact, I was fishing with a buddy of mine this year, Braxton Setzer. He fishes FLW. We were fishing to get his first shoal bass this year. And what do I catch? A 2-pound trout. On a spinnerbait, on a half-ounce spinnerbait, winding a spinnerbait. Boom. I thought I'd have a big one. I got a rainbow trout that's nice 2-pound fish.
Yeah.
That's how we call them 2-pounders. I think a trout guy, they refer to them in inches. But
yeah, it's kind of like out here you catch an 8-pointer, and if you go out to Colorado, they call them something
4x4.
4x4. That's right. And I'm always like, bunch of Yankees.
Yeah, 4x4 sounds like a truck to me.
It's an 8-pointer.
Right.
It's not a 4x4, but yeah. So I get it. So I get that relation, and I'm not insulting you, trout guys. I'm just saying.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I mean, I love to catch anything. I got some of my best buddies are trout guides, and that is one thing though about North Georgia is we got so many different types of lakes, man.
Yeah.
Or fisheries in general. We got premier trout water. We got the best tournament spotted bass water ever. Mm-hmm. We got big largemouth. We got Burton with these giant fish up there.
Yeah.
Lanier's got giant fish. Outstanding striper fishing. We got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So we had a special section of the country right here.
We're in a hot area right now.
Absolutely.
So it's pretty cool. So I'm going to end this with I'm going to give you one more kind of softball question. And we're going to circle all the way back to the beginning because, I see your passion for the fishing and all that. But, the kids, to me, the strongest emotion I saw out of you all night was when you was talking about those kids.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, so I want to end with talking about kids. If there's a father out there and he's got a young son or daughter or you know what?
Grandkids
or mother that's got either way. And if you could give them some advice on how not only to take the kid fishing, but to keep their interest where they will want to pursue fishing, what would you do? Absolutely.
So there's a couple of different things that come to mind there. And that is a conversation, as we talked about earlier. That's something I'm really passionate about. You see a lot of people who they've got a kid that has interest in fishing, and it can be little girls, little boys, grandkids, or whatever, and everybody's got a different story. I do a lot of times have got calls from, a single mother who has a kid, and I've always got a soft spot for that because that's how I grew up as a real little kid. Some of my earliest memories, my mom, she got a little boy that wants to fish, and my parents were separated or divorced and as an early age, and that's something that sometimes they don't know what to do. They got a kid that wants to go fish, and he wants to be out there. That is, and by the way, just got to throw. Anytime I talk about my mom, I got to throw a little plug out there.
Absolutely,
she's my number one. She's my number one supporter. She's awesome.
What's her name?
Joy. Joy is my mom's name.
Joy, okay.
And she's
hey Joy. I hope
hey, she's the best. But when you can take a kid, start small. Take them to a creek. Take them to a neighborhood lake. If you've got access to a golf course pond that you might be able to fish, or any type of small body of water. If it's affordable to get a guide, then that's a great experience too.
Right.
Whether it's myself or anybody else. But because that's you're putting them in the hands of somebody that hey, we're going to see to it they have a good day.
Right.
But that's not accessible for everybody. So keep it small. Pan fishing is the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bluegill.
I still love it.
And now here's a couple of tips on this though. When you can, pick the most favorable weather for that.
Yeah.
Just wait till the afternoon. Go when it's warm. Wait till the spring comes, when the trees start blooming, when the bees are out and all that. That's a good time to go do that. I learned with taking kids fishing, even on guide trips, you got to choose your battles.
Yeah.
You don't want to take them out there when we got weather like we got right now. It's hard to keep their interest. But start small. Crickets and red worms, pink worms, red wigglers, whatever. That's the way to go. Little bobber. If you got a young kid that wants to get into fishing, there ain't nothing better than watching that bobber go under.
Yeah. I still love it.
Me too.
I still love it.
What is the coolest thing in the world is that little hole where that bobber's going.
Yeah.
Right.
My favorite thing in all of fishing, even though we tournament fish, whatever, is a pencil float with a cricket underneath. And watch that, you just shoop.
Right.
Oh yeah. It don't get no better.
And that doesn't take much, hardly any money.
No.
That doesn't take any experience as far as you don't have to have a lot of knowledge to where to find them. If you've got a little pond, if there's a tree laying in the water or a little bush, just go right near that. If there's a dock, right there on that walkway. Hey, there ain't nothing wrong with throwing some bread out there and get them so they can see those fish. That right there, that's what gets kids, they got something they can see now.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And just keep in mind too that it's not always about what you catch. You don't have to catch a whole lot. If you catch one, great, that's great. But if somebody who's maybe new to the outdoors, or like you said, they've got a child that has interest in it, but they don't really know what to do. They don't have a lot of experience. There's a lot of cool things going out there on around the lake that you might not, you could easily overlook. Birds on the shore, birds in the air, other animals. That's a good way to keep a kid's interest. Yeah. Fish might not be biting, but hey, there's a deer right there.
Listen, crazy story. You said that. Josh and I were up at Rocky Mountain up in Rome, and the fish weren't exactly biting, but there was 2 bald eagles.
How cool!
And I think for 30 minutes we sat there taking pictures and just watching eagles because, it is an amazing thing to see it if you pay attention.
If you pay attention, and I think that it's something that I think I made a post about this recently that the more you fish, the more you spend time outdoors. The fishing, fish catching, or maybe if you harvest a deer or turkey, whatever, that's the bonus.
Yeah.
The time out there in outdoors, that's what it's all about. Or time with friends and family, that's what it's really all about. And I think that some of that other stuff can kind of muddy the water sometimes with the tournaments. We got to catch a big one. We got to have our posts for the internet. Like, that's bonus.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
So it doesn't have to take a big fish to get a kid interested. Those little other things that are going on out there, I can't tell you how many times that bald eagle or a deer or a goose or blue jay, that saved my day, because we'll see him, he's building a nest or he's doing this. And we talk about that for a little while, and it buys you a little time. And I think a lot of times, too, kids get a little different appreciation of that. They get a little more appreciation of just the outdoors in general, because we take it for granted. You or I may have grown up being in the outdoors. Not everyone gets a chance to do that.
Right.
And so, small, doesn't take a lot of money, just pan fishing. That's the way to get started.
That is perfect. That's as good of an answer as I've ever heard. I mean, I've always thought that was the best way. And, you can pan fish and be successful at it until you're 99.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and
they're everywhere.
I see a lot of bass fishermen as they get older. They go back and they're catching crappie, and they're having more fun.
Dude,
doing
listen,
that.
I'm not far from that. I love crappie.
I mean, I'm not there. But
I still like to just troll. Just stick a Zebco 33 out on Latham up here and just throw a crappie jig. Just drive around, and don't catch a lot, but what I catch are big. And
you just enjoy spending time out there. That's what it's all about.
You appreciate it,
right?
You absolutely appreciate it. So, all right, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, and maybe wants to, try to book a guide trip and all that, where can they find you, and maybe even on social media?
Right. So if you want to find me, my website, first off, is robjordanfishing.com. Mm-hmm. Actually working on a new website right now, so you'll see a new one kind of pop up there soon. The one that I've had, it served its purpose, but kind of what we're doing moving forward is, you'll see a new site there. So robjordanfishing.com. And on any of the social media stuff, Rob Jordan Fishing or Rob Jordan Fish. So Rob Jordan Fish on Instagram, Rob Jordan Fishing on Facebook. That's where you can look me up. You can find me there. And on my guide stuff specifically on Facebook, there's a page called Lanier Experience Bass Fishing. That's where I post a lot of stuff about the trips we've had and people's catches from client trips and stuff like that. So haven't posted a whole lot on there this year, just for no reason. I mean, I'll post some more as the spring comes up. Sometimes you take people out that don't want to be
understood
photographed, but that's where you can look me up, and certainly be glad to help anybody out to get out there on the lake. So
that's awesome. YouTube?
Yeah, YouTube as well. So Rob Jordan, I can't even think of exactly what my name is. And I think
you got some great videos, so they
Jordan.
need to check you out on that.
Well, I stayed off of doing videos for a long time, too long. But I'm kind of late to the YouTube party.
Yeah.
But my focus on that, though, is to do more videos that are specific to our type of fisheries.
Right.
I'm not trying to do videos that million views or anything.
Yeah.
If that happens, great. I'll do that to kind of help answer some questions, and this is important to kind of wrap with. Guys would be surprised how many people send questions in to direct messages and all that. Now, I love fishing. I love talking fishing and all that, but you can't get back to everybody's questions. There's no way possible to do that. It would be a full-time job just to answer the questions. So those videos are used to, if a guy sends a question in that I might not get a chance to dig in and answer with him, hey, but it's about this, and that is something I can do a video to kind of help answer that question.
Yes, absolutely. It's a broad, you can get the broader audience and all that.
And I give my 2 cents on it, and So I will be doing more of that kind of stuff on YouTube and about the herring-related spotted bass. Right. And got a lot of cool plans for that coming up this year, fishing with some different buddies on some different places. And, hey, I may even reach out to one of the guys with the DNR and kind of give their scientific take on it. So we can kind of, I think it'd be a cool thing to do. So,
absolutely.
But yeah, look me up on, on YouTube as well.
Well, I tell you what, no, absolutely look him up. First, I want to thank you for making the trip out here. It's a long drive for you.
Thank you all for having me up.
No, listen, we've been trying to get you for a while. It just hasn't worked out. I am glad you finally made it out to the sticks.
Hey, I like it up here.
Yeah, I love it out here, so it's great. But I tell you what, I appreciate the information that you gave, but I appreciate the emotion that you gave. There's nothing wrong with showing it and all that. So I appreciate that, and man, I've had a great time talking to you.
I had a blast, man. I think I've talked myself to my mouth's dry, but I'll get another bottle of water.
We'll get you some water to go and all that. But look forward to bringing you back sometime.
Absolutely,
as well.
man. Be glad to.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Fish North Georgia podcast. If y'all have any topics or guests you'd like to see in the future, leave it in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button, click that bell so that you'll be notified of any future videos. And don't forget to give us a follow on Facebook and Instagram at Fish North Georgia. And we look forward to seeing you soon.